Road game for the Seminoles and the Nole Insiders this week. Lane Hurt along with Tim Lenefelt here for your game preview as Florida State gets set to take on the NC State Wolfpack, 7 p.m. in Raleigh, North Carolina. Before we get going, let's talk a little bit about NC State. They are 4-4 on the year, 1-3 in the ACC, unranked. 73rd in the nation in total offense, averaging 400 yards a game. 27th in total defense, giving up 354 yards per game. And most relevant to the Seminoles, 17th in the nation in both sacks and rushing defense. Clearly, Tim, a defense that could give the Seminoles some trouble.
Well, yeah, and as we've seen over the last month or so, Florida State's offense really funnels through the running game and Dalvin Cook, and he's just been spectacular. And it's another top rushing defense for Florida State to face. I think that's going to be their biggest challenge. As you know, NC State's going to do what all Florida State's opponents try to do, which is stack the box, stop Dalvin Cook, and make FSU beat them in the passing game. So far, we've seen Florida State been pretty good at that, especially over the last month or so. But they're going to have to do it one more time because NC State, like you said, legit on that rushing defense, and of course also on the pass rush, which, as we know, has also been an issue for Florida State's offense.
Let's go on to our stat of the week, courtesy this week of Florida State Sports Information. And of course, we got to go with Dalvin Cook. An incredible season so far, and he's on pace to set some more records. He's 192 rushing yards away from breaking Warwick Dunn's career rushing record at Florida State. And if you're looking long term, he needs to average 167 yards a game to break the ACC rushing record set in 1979. Just a tremendous season. I think we've run out of ways to praise Dalvin.
Yeah, it really is pretty special to watch. And, you know, Warwick Dunn, of course, I mean, his place on sort of the Mount Rushmore of Florida State football is secure. He's one of the most legendary players, beloved players in program history. And for a long time, especially, I think if you've followed Florida State football since Warwick's career or beyond, his career rushing record is 3,959 yards, and I think for the longest time we thought that's just never going to be broken, especially during that long stretch. You know, it was almost 15, 20 years that Florida State didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher. It wasn't until Devontae Freeman's junior year back 3 years ago that had actually happened. So between the fact that Florida State didn't have so much as a 1,000-yard rusher, the fact that somebody might one day break Warwick Dunn's career rushing record, which is almost 4,000 yards, seemed almost unthinkable, and yet here we are, Dalvin Cook on the verge of doing it. Like you said, he needs 192 against NC State, which he could get there. That's a lot. You know, you're asking almost 200 rushing yards, which is pretty substantial, but it's not like we haven't seen him do that. And so to have a player of Dalvin Cook's caliber, I think, a totally worthy successor to the throne, so to speak, from Warwick Dunn, it's pretty special to see.
Our matchup of the week, we go to NC State's Jalen Samuels, tight end / fullback player for the Wolfpack against the Seminole defense. Usually when you're talking about dual threat kind of guys, you're talking about quick, speedy guys. This is a bigger, more powerful guy. He leads the team in receptions. He has 4 touchdowns receiving, another 3 on the ground and 100 yards in more short yardage situations. This is a guy who could really cause some matchup problems.
Well, and it's a wrinkle, and I'm really curious to see how exactly NC State chooses to use him against Florida State. Do you try to get him, like you said, involved in the running game or go downfield passing? Florida State sometimes can lose the tight end in coverage, which everybody can do. So that's something that, you know, your linebackers and your safeties especially are going to have to keep an eye on and making sure that everybody knows where he is at any given time. And like we've seen, you know, so it was seen come up against Clemson at various points of the season. When he does get the ball and you get up to him, you got to bring him down. You can't let him get out of an arm tackle and get an extra 5-10 yards, because that's how, you know, you extend drives. So keeping an eye on him, it would be a big day, like we said, for Florida State's linebackers and safeties, trying to keep him in check.
There you have it, Seminole fans. The Noles and the Wolfpack Saturday evening in Raleigh. Make sure you're watching that game on ESPNU. And of course, Seminoles.com and the Nole Insiders will have everything you need post-game. Tim, his written analysis. I'll have your highlights, post-game recap, and you'll hear from Jimbo Fisher and the players as well, as Florida State looks for a big road win. That'll do it for now. So for Tim, I'm Lane. Hopefully they'll let us back in the studio next week. Go Noles.